We're gonna call the April 2nd, 2026 Shoreline Fire Department RFA Board of Commissioner meeting to order. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Funny, Mike, getting kids off. No, they don't. They don't do it at school,
We have no planned excused absence, so we'll give Commissioner Adams
here, even just doing.
Oh, perfect.
There.
So we won't give Commissioner Adams 2 more minutes, but continue. Do we have any public comment? None. None online. Consideration of the agenda, Chief.
I could probably pull the capital bond item off and push that out to the next meeting or two.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, remove new business number 1, the capital bond discussion.
Then we have approval of the past minutes from March 12th, our special meeting with North City Water. Is there any concerns or amendments to the meeting minutes from March 12th?
Yes,
March 12th?
yes, the special meeting, yes.
Yes, okay.
So, a clarification has been requested regarding the administrative director separation, as noted in the March 12th, 2026 special meeting minute. While the meeting recording reflects the term retiring, it has been clarified that the correct term should have been resigning. The board may wish to consider approving the minutes as amended to reflect this clarification.
Okay, is there any other amendments or corrections? Okay, hearing none, chair declares the minutes approved as presented or amended. Then we've got the regular meeting minutes from March 19th. Is there any amendments or corrections to that? Hearing none, chair declares the minutes from March 19th, 2026 approved as presented. Moving on to warrants, motion to approve.
I'll move to accept disbursements in the amount of $3,763,877.31.
I'll second it.
The motion by Commissioner Hevlin and seconded by Commissioner Harris. Any questions, concerns, amendments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Commissioner report. Tyler, do you have anything? Barb? Rod? Anything? Rick?
Yep.
Josh? You don't want to tell us about your wonderful trip?
Later.
No, okay. Eric, do you have anything for commissioner report?
No report.
Okay. Lisa?
I don't have anything.
Good, because we don't want to hear about your trip either. I just want to quickly mention that next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, our virtual King County meeting, we are having a speaker on the Oklahoma bombing. If anybody is interested, tune in. Financial report, Chief.
So we gained back a little bit, which is as expected from being the higher month in January. So we're 0.4% over budget at this point. I would expect that we'll continue to gain ground until we hit the summer months in that regard. Was there anything that popped out to y'all?
It was a lot of that over budget. Was that the overtime? Seemed like.
Yeah, we have at the beginning in January, we have some cash outs and so forth, and then also annual payments that come due. So some of our expenses are fairly linear throughout the year. Some will have peak like sometimes we use more water or electricity that peak up, and then some are even more cyclical because they're either quarterly or even annual. And so at the beginning of the year, we typically have higher expenses, although we also try to delay some of our bigger capital expenses until we get about now, as we're about to collect the first half taxes and stuff like that, just to help us with our overall books. But we have, as you know, we have quite a bit of carryover each year anyway, but it's always nice to, not spend all of it right up front.
It looked like we had quite a bit of overtime for January.
Some of that was cash outs though, too.
That's where it came from.
It comes out of that same bucket. And overtime this month, if you flip to towards the end there, overtime was at a more reasonable level. At 70, almost 77,000 and 84,000. So it's more in line with what we were expecting, what we
You
would
have the line item number in that?
it's at the end.
That's what.
And there's two different charts. One includes all overtime, and then one that just the one that I try to focus on a little bit more is the staffing overtime, the one that's highlighted in yellow at the top of it. And it says staffing only at the top. And that's also where, like, in January, we're at 100 and almost 15 and almost 113, and now it's down about 30,000 respectively. So overall, I would expect this us being a little over budget at this point. It's somewhat to be expected, and I hope that we are 1 or maybe even 2% under budget by the time we get to summer months, because then we'll start using more overtime and so forth too. I'm sorry, Barbara, I think I cut you off.
That's all right. On page 1, just a question down in the red where it says Gallatin. That is at 39% already.
There's some payments there that are cyclical too.
Oh,
Is that one that we do quarterly or?
I think it's quarterly. It's yeah, it's monthly. Oh, it is monthly. Well, then why?
well, I know there's 5,000 each month.
Wait a minute. This is we've got a problem there. Let me look into that. Sorry, I missed that one. I will look into it and email you guys whatever I come up with. I'm guessing there was a miscoding.
And then the other one I noticed is on page 3, mapping and pre-fire printing.
We entered into a contract
Oh,
to it's a one-time
okay.
to print out our we haven't updated our big maps in a long time, and so we're going through trying to clean those up. We rely a lot on the computers, the MDCs, to help us with navigating in the rigs and all that, but we also now and then we need to pay for maps.
That'd be interesting to see how that works. I'll have to
Big printer.
come by and see.
Interesting enough, we also got some PDFs from Norcom after we initiated this contract that will help us in the future to maybe not have to do this in the future again. So
Great. That's all I had.
Is there anything else? All right, let's move on. Strategic activity report, chief.
did have one comment, but I'll wait and see if you have any questions. Well, okay, I'll just make my, we talked a little bit at the last meeting about public records requests and potential legislation that we can pursue. So I did some research trying to find other states that had, it's called vexatious usage. And so I'm starting to put together some language that I'm gonna try and approach our legislators to see if anybody's excited or interested in helping support and get this across the finish line. Not holding out a lot of hope because it's not a bright and flashy or even popular thing to work on, especially with all the pressure that comes from the big media companies. But it is something that I'm gonna try and get some traction. So
I did send that to
Dennis,
someone and,
oh, you did? Okay.
yeah, fine.
Yeah. California's got some, Tennessee's got some, Connecticut's got some language. So I'm gonna try and do as much of the work as possible and give them more of a kind of finished product,
Yeah.
hopefully. So that they can try and support us.
Chief, is it just our fire department that's getting hit with this, or is it other fire departments too?
Interestingly enough, I
Was it Seattle?
said that the one that bugs me he bugs the city. He's got a restraining order in Seattle apparently. He's bugged North Shore. He's bugged all this. He's an equal opportunity cyberbully. And so it's not just us, but I also believe that most fire departments have. It seems like when I talk with other fire chiefs, they all like, oh yeah, we've got one of those. Oh yeah, we got one of yeah. I'm not saying that there isn't fire departments out there that have avoided this situation, but I believe that it's unfortunately more common than I would hope.
Be interesting to see how Seattle got the restraining order.
Well, I think they were kind of lucky and this individual crossed some lines and then got caught and they were able to, now he's smart enough not to cross the line. Or far enough across the line.
Doesn't our PIO have a restraining order?
She did at one point, I think, but that was a long time ago before I don't know, actually, I don't know if she actually got that far, but then she moved.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a new apparatus coming, the fire engine, that's on here.
We have well, I don't have, hey, do we have a delivery from Hughes? Are we ever gonna get our fire engine?
Yeah, we've had it.
Oh, it's here.
It has been here. Our committee has been doing the upfitting on our new engine. And it has now been sent back to Hughes for some more punch list items. They have ordered some equipment that was taking a while to get. And during that time, while we were waiting for that equipment to arrive at Hughes up in Mount Vernon, we brought the rig on to do work that our committee could do on it for the upfitting equipment, getting equipment put on it, so forth, those loaded on it. Now that equipment came back to use, we sent the rig back up. And now our committee is using the time to finish getting things ordered they need for the rig and waiting for delivery on some of that while the rig's up there.
And where will this engine be stationed?
This will be the new engine 164.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot that it had come down and gone back up.
And then the engine it's replacing, does it go into reserve or what?
It will be going, the current 164 will become a backup engine. And all the way through the whole list of engines in the fleet, ultimately sending the oldest and most problem child to service. So, a motion coming your way in the next few meetings for surplusing an engine.
What, you're not keeping the equipment off it and putting it?
Wait.
With that,
Oh, just changing out the equipment, putting old equipment onto the new truck.
we're not really doing that. So there's it's like a domino effect of how we load stuff on that.
Okay, is there anything else for Chief Callan?
Yeah, Chief, could you touch on the progress with Bothell for meetings and kind of the outcomes of those meetings?
That's number 6 on our list. I can.
Oh, is it?
I can-
Okay, all right,
I can.
that's fine. How about, the meetings with, UW Northwest and Wall Times?
Yes, so myself, Chief Arms, Dr. McCoy, and Chief Kennison, we all went down to UW Northwest, met with the executives there. One of them happens to be Steve Mitchell, who was an old shoreline medic long time ago. He's overseeing all of not just UW Northwest, but all the UW emergency departments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's interim, and they're in the process of filling it, and he's put his name in the hat, so we'll see. But so the short version of this is that they shared with us a lot of their financial concerns and challenges that they're having with some pretty significant budget deficits for the system and physical challenges that they have at that site at Northwest for trying to process our patients faster. I shared with them our frustration and that we were done, essentially the short version is we were done waiting for them they have to come up with a solution. Where we're at is just not acceptable any longer. We've been patient, fix it.
Yeah.
And we're happy to try and help you, but we're not the experts in hospital medicine. Just like we don't ask them to fix our problems here, ask us to fix your problems there. However, with all that said, and they had posed some possible solutions that really didn't affect their physical facility. They don't have any money for expansion or anything like that. And their whole pitch was, is you okay?
It's just, gotta take a call.
Their whole pitch was that they have a physical constraint, for their emergency, the amount of beds that they have and the flow of patients, and they have no money for expansion. So I confronted them on that and so forth, and we showed them some of the numbers and the wall time issues that we were facing. And afterwards, after the meeting, we went down to the ER and walked around to see, and it's true, around their ER, they don't have a lot of beds, and they have they're filling up the hallways around their emergency rooms with people on beds. But I pointed out, and Andres and I were on the same page, we walked out into their waiting room and we're like, you could have waiting room over there where there's some chairs and seats over there, and you can change this into, put a room back there with some partition walls and line up beds there with a babysitter. And that's what and the good news is that outside, there was a couple of nurses there that were on this committee, along with Steve Mitchell, and then Steve Mitchell oversees all of the emergency departments. The director of emergency department for Northwest was also there. And so he and the three of us were talking. Well, meanwhile, Andres is talking with the two nurses, and the nurses are like, we're going to get this done for you. We're going to have another follow-up in 25, 30 days or whatever. And so we'll see if they're making progress. But our point was, we can't sit here for hours and tie up the aid card. You have to take this patient. I even was the bad guy on it. And I said, I'm going to tell my people to push the gurney up to the charge nurse and say, here you go. We'll come back later for the gurney. Being a little, because we need to be also sensitive to the needs of our patients and all that. So don't, but I was posturing a little bit of like, we are done waiting for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours to offload a patient when all of our aid cars at times are being tied up, on walls. I said, it's just not acceptable. So the plan, while they do some of the other things, which one of the things that they're talking about is doing some standalone clinics at places that take lower acuity patients. And I said, put one in Shoreline, find a place to put one in Shoreline. We'd be happy to take people there if we can and decrease the amount of patients that they're going to see. They put together a good presentation about how they're in financial constraints, but they didn't show us any fixes to their physical issue, the physical flow of their ER. And I'm like, you're not doing anything that's going to fix your problem that you just laid out for us over the last 15 minutes. And there's only going to be more patients. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that they pursue their clinics because they feel like they could get those things off the ground for less money. And that would decrease the amount of patients that they see at the ER, but I'm not sure. So I'm focusing on what we need from a selfish standpoint to try and fix our wall time issue, which is partition off some of that waiting room, have a nurse sit there and manage 4, 5, 6, 7 different beds with patients on them until they can get them into the ER.
And this is strictly Northwest Hospital.
All
It-
Seattle
it's
hospitals have.
all hospitals have this issue. However, Evergreen, which is we predominantly deliver patients to Swedish Edmonds,
Right.
Northwest, and Evergreen. And Northwest takes the predominance of shoreline patients, and Evergreen takes the predominance of say Kenmore. And Evergreen has pretty decent wall times. Overlake has great wall times. Other hospitals have good wall times, but Josh is absolutely right. The Seattle hospitals are terrible. All the wall times in all the hospitals, Seattle hospitals, are terrible, except for there's a couple smaller ones that are only taking limited patients so that they don't have as bad a time.
I think the mean
So-
time is like 60 minutes.
So
At the Seattle hospital.
the
Not for ALS.
well, we had one the other day that really typically, you're right. Typically, our medics get a fast track because that theoretically is a critical patient that's sick for whatever reason. But they waited for an hour and a half the other day, which is kind of unheard of. So I don't want you to get all too excited about it because that's really an anomaly. Our BLS, our aid cars are waiting at times for hours. And but ALS is typically pretty good.
Something that we did down in Thurston County is we were having event all times. And so Thurston County Medical One propped up 1 or 2 employees that they would put basically in the hallway, in the
Yeah.
breezeway. And then for all the BLS patients that would come in, they would just line them up on the hospital beds in the wall. And the Thurston County Medical employees would oversee those patients while waiting for beds.
And they're already doing that with they've converted a closet into a space. They're putting beds in the hallways. They call them vertical basically chairs, recliners. They're putting people in that can be there. They're filling up the space as best they can. They need more space. And if they don't want to come up with the money, and I understand they're saying they're $1 billion in the hole over the next 4 years or 5 years or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I can't fix that. But you need to do a better job of and so we get a babysitter, I say a babysitter, get a nurse that can monitor these patients in a setting where they can monitor, 3, 4, 5, 6 beds or whatever, and get our 8 cars back in service. And that's been that's what we were,
Chief, at those type of wall times, does it make more sense for Shoreline to transport to Evergreen, Overlake, and
we have a
dish rather, like it's a longer drive time, but turnaround time will ultimately be faster.
You're absolutely right. And we have a process where if we see that the wall times are getting long, the word goes out to all the crews, and then they actively will work with the MSO that's on duty or the hospital directly, like what's your wall time, and then encourage the patient to potentially go someplace else. But ultimately, it's up to the patient to decide on where they want to go. We've gone at times to calling TriMed or AMR to transfer the patient, to sit with them at the hospital. If they know before they get there and before they're on site, they can go to a different hospital and someplace like that. Because you're absolutely right. I mean, if the wall time at say Northwest is an hour and a half, 2 hours, it makes a whole lot more sense to go to Evergreen, a wall time at 20 or 30 minutes or whatever, and you're still back in service ahead of in a faster time. So we are trying to get creative with the way that we're addressing this, but at the end of the day, issue is not getting better, it's getting worse. And they're not doing the things necessary, at least from our perspective, to fix it. And I'm not saying they don't have financial constraints. But I can't fix them.
Hey, Chief,
Yeah.
are you aware of anything? Is there anything happening on a system level to try to triage the necessity of transport or the, because I know this has been an issue forever, but I think there's always the, legal liability concern, like, oh,
Right.
you don't want to leave somebody at home if there's something possibly wrong with them. But it just almost seems like at a system level, we also ought to look at, like, are all these people going to the hospital? Do they all really need to be there?
You're absolutely right. And there is quite a bit of effort to make sure that we're doing what we can there to prevent the need to take them to the ER. That's one of the reasons why we're expanding the MIH program. That's one of the reasons why they're looking at clinics, spread out around wherever they can, and they can find a place so that we don't have to take them to the emergency room. There is those kinds of efforts. I think that at the county level and at Dr. Ray's level, I think that they are trying to make sure that we are only taking patients that really need to go to the emergency room. But at the same time, if we don't have any other recourse and they say, I need to go to the hospital, I want to go to the hospital. At the end of the day, we do have to also be respectful of the patient's wants and so forth too. So I think you touched on something that's really interesting, Eric, because I think there is a multi-pronged approach to try and help the situation. And not any one of these is probably alone going to make a permanent fix. So I think we are trying to explore those other things. And I almost wanted to tell them, hey, give us a bunch more money, we'll expand our MIH program and even bring less patients to you. But and again, we may explore that a bit more in the coming weeks or months. But I'm also hoping that they do this clinic, here in Shoreline.
Does this cause a significant amount of overtime, I would imagine? Or
it can. It's the bigger issue
Track
isn't
that.
necessarily the overtime for us, because unless it's at shift change, we're paying the firefighters regardless. However, it is taking the rigs out of service out of our first due area, which decreases our performance and ties up now not just aid cars, now fire engines are going on first out aid calls to go and stabilize a patient or call for AMR or TriMed, or whatever, or wait for one of our aid cars from further away to come or things like that. So it's more of a unit utilization issue than it is anything else. And patient care. It literally, there are patients that have died waiting on a wall. This is just, it's really sad that this is where our system is, but it is where our system is. One of the bigger problems is and Stroyan had the stats on, so I'm pulling this out of the recesses, so don't quote me on it, but we went from 400 nursing facilities or assisted nursing facilities in Shoreline pre-COVID to 150 now. And we actually dropped even lower than that, and actually some of them have come back. So and it's even worse on some of the in-home care, so we do have some system issues that the problems are systemic, and it's not limited to Northwest. Some hospitals are doing worse than others for sure, but it's not limited. And whether you're down in Thurston County or King County or other states, it's everywhere. There has been nursing shortages, and I asked that question. I was there to try and bring some more weight to the conversation and to push this forward a little bit, because we've been kind of put off a number of times already on this over the years. But the overlying issue for Northwest seems to be space, not nurses. That's not the case in other places. Some places are short nurses, and even if you go back 2 or 3 years, you might recall that I briefed the board that there's a big nursing shortage. And it wasn't necessarily the space. Well, now, at least at Northwest, it's space. Because I asked the question, is every one of your rooms upstairs filled? Yes. Are you short nurses? Not necessarily, but they are overworked. So it seems to be a bed space. And just, this might be redundant, but we bring a patient into the ER, got to wait for an ER room. You know, that ER room is tied up until they have a place to put that patient. Sometimes they go upstairs and get admitted. Sometimes they get released. Sometimes they have to go either upstairs and then to an assisted or nursing facility or rehab facility or someplace else. And if there's a bottleneck from the end place, it stops the flow all the way back to us sitting on a wall. Does that make sense? It's not just one place or one spot that's going to fix this. There's more than, going on than that. But I've been patient. We have been patient for years. We're done being patient. We need a fix. I need my ACARs back in service. Figure out how to do that while you figure out whatever you're going to figure out for the rest of the stuff. I even half joked, it was only half joking. I said, maybe you should get into the business because we talked about nursing facilities and assisted living. Maybe UW should get into the business of nursing facilities and assisted living. If that's where the bottleneck is, there's definitely a demand. So, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. This has been a longer
Is there any
soapbox.
problem with them triage as opposed to sitting on the gurneys?
Are you saying like, are they triaging appropriately? Like,
No, like
when they're
you show up to the ER bay, they say, hey, we don't have a bed. You run up to triage, dump the patient off the triage, get back in service. So
oh, you mean in the waiting room?
yeah, they sit
Oh.
with everything else.
Don't think we've done that. Yeah, I would have to check to see if we've done it. I mean, that's kind of a new option too.
It takes a little bit longer, just that
Yeah.
process of like checking at the ER chart station, then you have to go out and recheck in at the front. But you're not waiting, you're dropping the patient off and leaving.
Well, and I postured with them too. I said, I'll come back and get my gurney. Those gurneys are expensive. We don't have a lot of those here. But I did say, hey, I've got more gurneys. And we do. But if all of a sudden we have 7 or 8 gurneys sitting down there at the hospital, not only is that hard to get them back because they are bulky and heavy and all that, we don't have that many great, because they're super expensive, those electric gurneys. But yeah,
It's something that we're doing, and also the only stipulation is if the patient can't sit up. So like they're required to, they're on a back
Right.
or for some reason they have to be on a gurney.
yeah, and we're not even doing backwards anymore.
Right.
So, yeah, this is not a simple solution. Otherwise, it would have been already taken care of. But it's
Yeah, and that doesn't stop people from being on the wall, but it does cut out a good majority that could sit up in a chair from option.
well, and we need to recognize too that we're putting some of our youngest firefighters, who are the ones that are working on ACARs and making these patients there, to be courageous and go up to a charge nurse and say, you're taking my patient. I've been here for 30 minutes. I've been here for 2 hours. I've been here for whatever. Here's the patient. Because they don't, I do recognize that puts them in a difficult situation. It'd be different than any one of us taking a guy. I told the executives, I'm like, have an alarm set on your charge, that goes off at 30 minutes and they can't turn it off to bring attention to it, because sometimes it's just bringing attention. Or I'm going to push the gurney all the way up to the desk and I'm going to say, here you go. After I have a conversation with the patient saying that we're not really trying to dump them, but we're trying to get them, advocate for them to get the services they need. So anyway, again, sorry, I just went a bit longer than expected. So hopefully you got a little bit out of this and more to come as we continue to explore options.
Yeah, Kirkland will also, if the patient's stable enough, we'll take them straight to triage. Check in with the triage nurse and then leave them in the waiting
It
room.
also breaks the myth of if we go by ambulance, we'll get in.
Yeah.
Get sued, you get, yeah.
You know, it's
It's a good point. I'll mention that too. We may have been doing that too. I have no idea.
Sometimes the triage nurse in the ER will direct you to the waiting room.
One of the things that we have done is we started sending MSOs down there to advocate. And now it's a BC that goes down there and goes up to the charge nurse and said, my crew's been waiting here for 2 hours. You're gonna take this patient and you're gonna get my crew in service right now. And that's work too. So.
Utilization of our resources.
Yeah, and that I brought that up in the meeting. I said, now not only am I out of 8 cars, now I'm taking my one command and control person that oversees, the multiple cities. And now they're down there doing what I believe is your job. So.
All right, moving on.
Sounds good.
A different topic. Josh brought up the question of Bothell update, and I didn't see it elsewhere in the agenda, but you said you're going to talk about it elsewhere in the agenda, Chief.
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, you're right. I looked at RFA and I thought RFA. Yeah, I'll brief you on. Sorry, you're right. On Bothell. This afternoon, I got the fire benefit, our consultant produced the first draft. It's not completely clean and all that. He wants to have another week or so to continue cleaning it up and all that. But I got the first draft of the fire benefit charge model of all the Bothell properties in Snow 10 being joined into our RFA. And what does that mean for single family, multifamily, and commercial properties? And it turned out pretty good. For single family, it did. Single family, I'll give you the short, I'll summarize. The impacts for single family in Bothell, if they join the RFA, there are some savings there if all the numbers play out the way that I'm projecting. For multifamily, no, and even worse for commercial. But that's not unexpected, because multifamily and commercial is where our calls, a vast majority of our calls are. They're riskier. They require more resources if there is an emergency, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not that surprising. So the good news, and 95% of properties are residential. So for the vast predominance of all the taxpayers, they would see savings.
Hey, Chief.
Yeah.
What assumption is that making about Bothell's tax collection?
That's the big question from a financial standpoint, because they only charge 78 cents per thousand of non-street, non-public safety levy. Their general property tax is 78.3 cents. So if they were to drop that property tax completely commensurate with the costs of the fire department being moved out, it would drop it. It drop it by more than half. I want to say to 20 cents or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't think I have it with me. It's on my desk. It drops it substantially, probably to a point beyond what they're going to be comfortable with. So they need to come up, or maybe they will be. I don't know. They need to come up with a plan as to what they're going to do, and or be able to communicate that and articulate that to their taxpayers. Or they're going to take money out of their general fund to help bridge the gap, or say, from sales tax or whatever they're, because they have a lot of different other revenue streams. So the big question there is, what are they going to do, with their with the decrease in needed money, and overall, as I already said, if they were to drop their property tax commensurate with those costs, and we add the fire benefit charge, the RFA, including the fire benefit charge, onto that level, for single family residences, there's about 7.5 cents of savings per thousand. For multifamilies, it's a 27 cents increase per thousand, and for commercial, over $1 increase per thousand. It's substantial. So what are they comfortable with? I mean, that's where we're at. So I shared that with the finance manager and the city manager late this afternoon, right, leading up to this meeting. I'll share when I get back to my office, I'll push send and send you that information as well, so you guys can see it. I immediately got a response back. Thank you for sending this to us. We're gonna start, we'll review it and then get back to, we'll set up a meeting early this next week to review and discuss. So that's where we're at for the most part. We are running out of time though, you know, if we're gonna go August. Which is, I'd still like to go August, but nobody's. I'm not excited about, you know, going beyond the end of this year. It's time. So. Or we'll have some hard decisions to make, you know, as to what the future looks like. And I'm not asking, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm not asking for anything right now. I'm just sharing with you that we're getting to that point where it's time. We've shown ourselves to be good partners. It's time for a decision. So I hope I get clarity on that this next week.
Okay, thanks for that update.
All right, moving on to Chief Hookstein.
I don't know if we've talked about my activity report that much ever.
Well, there were certain topics.
Wait till they get to mine.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, this is longer.
This is longer, so it must take longer.
You have a RFP going out for the 61 shop here. Yeah, what are we looking for there? Your last item on that activity.
Yeah, so we have created two RFPs that went out to geotech firm and a survey firms with the help of TCA, who's helping us with this project. So we ended up selecting a company for each of those needs, and I just finished sending the signed proposals and a purchase order to them today.
Okay.
So I would hope in the next few weeks we can complete the survey of the property that's required as a first step, and as well as some boring holes to determine the water drainage situation, you know, in the area that we're considering that we're looking at for the expansion of the shop. So once those things are underway, which as of today they are, because they received those contracts, our next step is to be working with TCA to do what's called programming, which is basically getting a user group together with the architects to start a first draft design of what the scope of this project will look like, what we want to include, how big we want to go, what we want to include in this project. So this is where all the ideas that we've been thinking about start to get put on the table, and with the architects help, they kind of guide us through turning that into the first drawing of what this would look like.
We have enough property.
Yeah,
Put in what
the property south of the existing bay doors on the apparatus bay is the area that we're looking at. Yeah, so not blocking the bay doors, but to the east where the roll prop used to be, and back towards the corner of the property. The architects and fire marshal's office have worked with the city to determine setbacks along the fence behind the gas station building there, and we can go pretty much right up to that fence. So we've got an opportunity to. What's nice about that, we've evaluated half a dozen options around the property, and that was determined to be the best area for us, in part because it wouldn't make it a triple deep bay. It's the least conflict with the drill ground that we want to maintain, and it would allow us to access both the existing shop and the new wing of the shop through opening up that south wall through the storage room, right? So a mechanic can move back and forth through the building to get to both sides of the shop to their base.
And it would, if it was attached to the existing building, we have better access to utilities and so forth to.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss related to this project moving forward. But the geotech stuff and the survey work is kind of that first step to understand that any parameters or limitations that we have and what we would need to build into this project once we get that information back. The architects need this information. My question.
The new EV chargers, the application's been accepted. Is that tied in with the grant?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's.
So we were approved by Seattle City Light for those grants.
Okay.
And they'll go here, this state,
4 stations actually,
here though.
including 61.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I believe our plan is to place them right where the 3 on-duty rigs park during the day. And that also includes 57, 64, and 60. Pretty exciting, actually.
Does that mean that the grant is paying for the EV chargers?
Yeah, so I don't have the math right in front of me, but they're basically covering the whole cost of the project, CLC events. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, hey, more climate action committee material.
Love it.
Take note, Mr. Chair.
So it's a big step up for capability of all our districts having place to hook up our rigs. It also opens the door to putting this infrastructure in place will open the door once the department determines that we have the we want to spend money on electric vehicles that will have the infrastructure in place to start being able to plug them into something. It's been hard to justify buying an electric vehicle when we don't have anything to plug into, right? So this is a step towards that long-term vision. A lot of credit to Anders for the work he did working with Seattle City Light on this project. He's a handy guy to have around, kind of love it. FYI.
He sounds like
It's been a long time coming.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to Chief Orm's report. I had wall times marked, but we already covered that in detail.
I'm curious about the water rescue discussion.
I can probably cover that in the new business number 2, the vote on Lake Washington.
Can you cover it as briefly as Chief Orms?
I can try. I can actually be really quick. You guys ask a lot of leading questions. That's all. It's not my fault, it's yours. There you go.
All right, old business. Wage scale for new HR director.
Okay, I'm gonna be brief. Okay, so
Promise?
yes, I promise. So in our review of the organizational chart, when we talked. Okay, all approved? Yep, okay, good. So we discussed the org chart, we discussed what our future staffing structure looked like, and I had briefed you all on that we were still kind of fleshing out some things. Where we ended up was wanting, instead of an HR manager, we want to elevate to an HR director. And so the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer, will have 2 directors that that person oversees. Right now, currently, it's an admin director and soon to be HR director. The admin director we're going to reevaluate as we get through the rest of this year as to what the needs are administratively. But our expectation is at this time that by the end of this year, that we would transition that into a finance director position. Our plan is to, because they're both director levels, is to have parity of those salary levels, which means elevating from an HR manager to an HR director salary level. And that's what I'm coming to you tonight with, to ask that instead of, I had briefed you all on an HR manager level salary, and we want parity with our director level positions, which means increasing it by about $2,600 a month at the low end. And so that's what I'm asking for.
Well, where do we offset that? I mean, you're increasing to have the director, but is there some savings somewhere that we're picking up that cost?
Well, we'll actually be bigger savings for this year because we budgeted for the whole year, and we're not going to have an HR manager even for the whole year. And so we'll have savings this year, but in the future, this is an increased level of this position. And part of that is to make sure that we are attracting, even higher level talent for the position. And so it's a couple of different reasons. And especially with the size of the department that we are now, and just even what we had to deal with this week was HR issues. I really wish we had the HR director on board right now. And so that's why we're interested in elevating it to an HR director. The savings this year, but next year, you're right, Rick, this would be an increase over what we had planned on earlier this year. For 2027, it'd be an increased cost.
And then being the HR director, how many staff members will that HR director?
Initially, only one. But we are planning on adding at least one more by next year, maybe even more than that. I have done some research on what level of position we should have for the size of department that we are. And at 200 people, they say an HR manager or preferred an HR director with anywhere from 1 to 5 people below them in different positions, including an HR manager. I mean, if you want to talk about savings, one of the recommended structures is an HR director, HR manager, and then HR specialists. What our plan is to have an HR director and then not have an HR manager, but HR specialists. So there would be some savings, depending on what model you believe in. There would be some savings in the fact that we wouldn't be looking at an HR manager underneath an HR director.
Currently, we had an HR manager before.
No, this is a new position for us. Our current HR specialist has been doing. It's one of the reasons why we really need the position. Is she has been doing more than her job description specifies. She's an HR specialist, but she's really been acting more like an HR manager at times, and so that's one of the reasons why we need to. That's why we've got a new structure, in place. So.
So traditionally, Shoreline's only having one staff member handling HR issues.
Well, BOFA does. That's also one of the reasons too. Is BOFA's been our HR manager. She's been our lead HR person, and it's just not viable. It's just an overload of that position. That's one of the reasons why we're pulling those HR duties out of that position and elevating, to an HR director position. So right now we kind of all piecemeal a little bit HR stuff, but it's really on BOFA and Rachel and Liliana to do our HR work. Matt does HR work and doing our promotional and hiring processes. I do HR work. We all are doing HR work. So Beatrice is doing HR work. We have a full HR staff between all of us. If we're doing anything else.
By doing the director, we pull some of that in.
Correct. It would all go to the HR director, and then we build in scalability underneath that HR director to address, future workload. Right now, it's one HR specialist. Like I said, I'm expecting a second HR specialist by the beginning of next year, maybe even one beyond that. But I don't want to overcommit. I'd rather build in and see how we do before we commit to an additional position. beyond the next one. I mean, my plan is by early next year, HR director and 2 HR specialists. Beyond those 2 HR specialists, I want to wait and see how we do.
With what the economy's doing right now, I worry that we've got to watch what's gonna happen for our costs in the next couple of years. You know, with the electricity going up 30%. And that's just one example. We gotta watch it the next couple of years. But
Well, I will say that one of the bigger issues that from a cost standpoint is the risk of not doing a better job in HR functions, training, the accountability, investigations, and so forth is a big risk for us.
Do you need direction from us at all, chief, or just?
Well, it sounds like there might be some. It'd be great if we had a consensus, a straw vote or something. Are you all? Do you have concern? I know you have concerns, Rick.
I think it's a good idea that we do this. I just want to make sure that.
Okay.
We're cognizant of where we're headed next year.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's, we do definitely both we're losing her because of that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Yeah. I didn't prepare a motion or anything because you've already approved the organizational chart for the HR director. It's really me coming back in due diligence and transparency of saying we'd like to elevate that salary to commensurate with that director position. I don't really need anything unless there's concern or questions.
We already have an admin director.
That was approved in that org chart is an admin director, but the plan will be to retask. Well, we'll reevaluate later this year as to what that position looks like. But our predominant thought is and expectation is that will become the finance director. After we get our new CAO and HR director in place and can get all that transition done, that's our focus is we need to elevate in finance as well.
So the admin director would become the finance director, is that what you're saying?
If there is not a need for more admin work that below the CAO level, which we are anticipating that there probably won't be, but I'm not going to guarantee that. But yes, we've talked with the current, now new admin director, and the expectation is there for her to become the finance director. I'm not trying to be vague, but I don't want to guarantee. We have to evaluate later this year as to what the workload and all that looks like, and frankly, it'll be dependent on some of the negotiations that are going on right now with the non-uniform group.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rick or Eric.
So, I don't have any major concerns with the chief's request. I think, part of it is the whole, the former organizational structure and the new organizational structure, looks fine. I don't think any of us have an issue with that, but we're not necessarily experts on it. I think it could be a useful metric just to reassure us that we're doing the right thing, to have a sense of like how big is our administration per capita or per fire department size compared with others. Are we like running a really lean administration, or are we a little bit bulkier of an administration, or how do we compare? The city of Kenmore is looking at some financial measures. They had to recently do a thing where they looked at their number of FTEs in the city per capita, but I don't know how difficult or how easy it would be to come up with some sort of metric like that. But that would be kind of just a reassuring metric to know that we're sort of on the right path administratively as far as our expenses go.
That's a great question, and a couple of months back when we were having more robust conversations about the structure and all that, we looked at 5, 6, 7 different fire departments and at different sizes to see what their structure looked like, how they labeled and titled their positions, and who reported to whom in those structures. And I can certainly share with you, or some of them are just easy to get online, but I've got all of them saved and I can share them with you if you'd like. But boy, it's all over the board. Some people, as I shared, some people have titles, that we would, like the executive assistant oversees all administration. Well, we don't, that's not the way we're set up, but you would get a sense of like how many FTEs are in the admin. And if I was to guess, I think we're not terrible. I think we're probably, I think there are gaps in certain areas. We've talked about support services. We need some better administrative support there. HR, we need some better leadership in finance, and people that are dedicated to some of these silos, if you will, these divisions. For example, Puget Sound Fire. I mean, I think they have like 8-10 people, in HR alone, but they're also a department of 450 people, so double our size. I have looked it up and done it. I even did a chat GPT. I don't use chat GPT very often, but I was like, oh, tell me, what would you recommend? And that's what it recommended was preferred HR director, but at least that, and then depending on the complexity of your contracts and so forth, anywhere from 1 to 5 or 6 other positions. Now that's not cast in stone, and just because they say that that's what it is, that doesn't mean we have to do it. It's just, I was like, to Eric, to your point of like, how out of whack are we? I think we are out of whack in certain areas like HR right now. But I think overall, our admin is probably maybe a little lean, but I think we're doing okay. But we do need to get more specialized and focused on some of these silos and divisions that we're leaning into. So, which is also why we're, not only looking for CAO and an HR director, but we're looking for an admin assistant and a receptionist. Now, those are to replace positions that are vacant right now. But we are trying to build in the scalability in that structure so that we can address our workload. I'm happy to share them with you, though, Eric, if you want to see them.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Okay, is there any more discussion then on the HR director? Let's move on to new business, cooperating the boat on Lake Washington.
Correct. So, one of the things that we've been exploring is what can we do, or if we had a boat, how much would that elevate the level of service that we perform on the water for rescues or whatever, and address some of our increased risks that we have. For example, what if a seaplane catches on fire? What if it flips over and there's multiple patients? What if we have a lakeshore house that catches on fire, or a brush fire along the lake that is difficult to access from the land side? What if we have a patient that falls down the bluff at St. Edwards, and now it would be easier to extricate that person onto a boat and then over to a dock than it is to pull them back up the bluff? Some of these things that we've been exploring as far as risks, for us to try and address. To be clear, there's not a huge amount of these calls a year, but it is a risk. It's an exposure that we need to be thinking about. I'm not interested in spending millions of dollars on a fireboat, which is what King County Sheriff's Office is doing right now. They've got a $1.2 million boat that's coming in to Carolyn Point, and it's going to be a resource, on the water. So with that said, I am interested, if it's cheaper, to look at what we can do to address these needs. We were given a boat, or loaned a boat, by the King County Sheriff's Office. You may have seen it. It's on a trailer at 51. To see, to test out, to see, if there's, a benefit there. It's not very big. It's like a 20-foot boat or something, 22. And to start getting some exposure for our people, because they're all boat drivers, boat certified, but they've been operating. Some of them have never, potentially never driven a boat. They've only driven jet skis. So, and as we've been looking at that, we've also been exploring the possibility of pairing up with the King County Sheriff's Office to co-operate their boat, which is actually right down the shore from where our jet skis are. It's in the next marina over. They have I thought it was all in even numbers, but they say it's a 27-foot boat there. So it's not super big either. But it's got some capabilities for what I just mentioned as, increasing our scope of work. At first, they were resistant to that. Now they are not so much. I had a meeting, Andres and I had a meeting with the director of their special operations and and then of all special operations. And then also with the sergeant that oversees their water rescues, and they're interested in cooperating with us. So they're exploring an ILA and an MOU to send us over to consider. They'll bring to the board, obviously, for consideration. And they're also sending us their training curriculum to explore what that would look like too. So we're getting closer to to being able to jointly operate their boat and have that permission. So more to come. This is just an initial briefing on some of these things that we're exploring.
We'll still keep the jet skis.
Oh yeah, the jet skis are very good. They're very nimble and fast to deploy. And does a lot of our calls. The boat just increases that level of what we can do and in areas that the jet skis would not do well in.
How many runs did our jet ski? You probably don't know that.
When the Legacy North Shore Fire Department bought them initially, there wasn't all that many calls a year on the water, or that they would get deployed on. But I believe that we didn't know about a lot of the calls that we could get called on if we had the right apparatus.
Kirkland's response.
And so all of a sudden now we're still not doing a ton of calls, but we are doing quite a bit more than I would have anticipated. So it's definitely a resource, for us.
It's the highest volume technical rescue that local fire departments do, over like rope rescue or confined space or trench.
Yeah.
Water rescue is the highest volume technical rescue.
And even if it's not a huge number of calls, it is an exposure for us. Kenmore Air is the busiest seaport in the country. And we have the biggest marina in the north end, at least. I don't think, in fact, it's bigger than the Renton one too. So we have the biggest marina on the lake.
And you have a lot of day people in the slough, a lot of swimmers.
Yeah, I mean, so we have invested in our swimmers, and all of our swimmers are boat operators too, so that they can take the jet skis. The plan would be for them to get typed for the boat, if this all works out. And then, so that they could operate the boat.
Use whichever device is needed. Okay, makes sense.
It's not a super duper fireboat. It's got like a Mark V sump pump, that would be able to pump water. I think it may have a little stang on it. It does have an enclosed cab, so it does have LiDAR, abilities and some other, capabilities and so forth. So it would be good to have, and it would be cheap. They get free moorage. So we would probably just have to help with fuel and maintenance.
Way back in the day, Kenmore had a fireboat.
Yeah, I think I've seen some pictures of it a long time ago. Yeah.
2 paths.
So
How
anyway, this was just the initial briefing of work that we're doing.
How old is it? The boat
How's the boat that they have?
that they have.
I don't know. The boat that they gave us is old and it's underpowered. It's got an old, outboard on it. It was more, I looked at what they gave us as a good training platform for our people to get, if they aren't familiar with operating a boat, to get trained if we end up diving into the deep end, unintended, on this. I don't know how old their boat is that they operate. I want to say it's 10 or 15 years. They have a bunch of different boats, and this would be a trickle down, and the boat that they're replacing at Caroline Point would not trickle down to this one because they don't like it. They don't like the Caroline Point boat. They say it's a maintenance disaster. So they're not planning on trickling that one down to the Kenmore marina. So I don't know if they'll sell it or what, but after they told me it was a maintenance nightmare, I don't want to buy it. So
Right.
Even if it was only for like $100. So I don't need a decision. This was just for information.
Well, let's move on then to projected agenda. Does anybody have anything to put on the projected agenda?
I'll probably be absent for the June 4th meeting.
June 4th. We're probably gonna have to reschedule June 4th anyway, Eric. We won't have a quorum. Majority of us will be at Lake Chelan.
Okay,
So June 13th? June 13th, pancake?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's on there.
Yeah,
It's on there,
it's
sorry,
on there.
my bad.
It's on here.
I'll be absent from the June eighteenth.
It's in some smaller-
Work.
Okay.
So, sorry, what was that time?
He was looking for it on the sheet.
We're gonna move it to the
Number
11th.
9 will be absent.
Correct.
On the what?
On the
June
18th.
18th.
June 18th, yeah.
Yeah, maybe at the next meeting, we can have our calendars and we can figure out what we're doing with the June 4th meeting.
So June 13th is the picnic, right?
That'd be a good one.
June 13th is the pancake.
May 21st, Commissioner Byer to be virtual or absent.
Which one,
The
huh?
21st.
May 21st.
Okay. Commissioner 9, May 7th.
Yeah.
Absent on.
Okay.
Two.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
Try to zoom in, but I haven't had good luck with that.
what's that?
I'll try to zoom in, but I haven't had good luck with that.
You know what? If you can, great. If not, you've got an excused absence. All right. If there is nothing further, it's 6:42.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
So. Yeah, so